Mr. Mosquito on PlayStation 2 is one of those quirky Japanese-made games that many might have heard of, but not too many have played. Myself included, until I imported it along with its sequel, that I didn't know even existed until not long before I bought it a couple years ago. Technically, it's also one of those games with 3 names for 3 regions, as in Japan it's Ka, which means mosquito, in the US it's Mr. Mosquito, and in Europe it's Mr. Mosquito. At its core they're flying games, I suppose. You steer with the left stick and float and kinda sorta strafe with the right. R1 accelerates and L1 brakes or reverses. L2 to look at the human in the room, and R2 to turn around 180 degrees to fly in the opposite direction. After finding your target, you press circle to attack and R3 to stick your needle in, and swirl the right stick around to suck blood. In the first game, the objective is simple: gather enough blood to survive the winter. And when you're sucking, you need to spin the right stick accordingly after the blue area. If it goes up, you spin faster, and if it goes downward, you spin slower. If you go outside, the human is much more likely to smack you, which is an instant kill. Of course, sometimes they'll smack you anyway. Occupational hazard. But you can press triangle to bail out, because he who sucks and flies away lives to suck another day. Sometimes the humans spot you and try to kill you by hitting, stomping, or spraying you with insect repellent. You have to fight them off by flying into and ramming certain spots on their bodies, which somehow gets them to relax. The first game times the fight so you can challenge yourself to your best times. The hardest part to me with the battles aren't surviving the onslaught, but that sometimes one of the relax points is on the back, which can be really hard to get around to when they keep turning around. The humans in question are the Yamada family. The father Kenichi is a short and balding man who wears a belly warmer and watches TV a lot. The mother Kaneyo is the housekeeper type, but she used to be a gymnast, which she uses against you later in the game. The daughter, Rena, is 17, and as you might expect, doesn't do much other than talk to friends on the phone and being generally bored. She does take a bath in stage 4, however. Every stage begins with a family huddle, where throughout the game we can follow the gradual decay of their family unit. There's also the narrator, who introduces the game as well as all the stages, in a nice and calming voice. The first few stages has you sample each of the family members' blood, causing them to set up mosquito poison around the house in preceding stages, and finally being ready to fight you head on, which leads to a series of boss fights, which knocks them all out, leading to a final stage where the whole house is almost covered in anti-mosquito gas. You need to suck from all 3 family members, then get out within a time limit. This is also the only time you have access to almost the whole house at once. This seems kinda dark, actually, as if they're going to be gassed and die of poison inhalation or something. But this isn't that kind of game. Instead, they wake up the next day and decide to finally take that family photo when the mosquito flies into the frame and ruins it. This is a funny game. From the general concept to the writing and what happens, to the opening screen that references Resident Evil. I like it a lot, even though it is occasionally a bit frustrating. Mr. Mosquito came out in Japan in 2001, and the West the following year. The game sold okay in Japan, but as you might expect, not so much in the West. In 2003 there was a Japanese-only sequel, KA2 Let's Go Hawaii, and it's hard to say. It's excellent and very disappointing at the same time. First of all, if Mr. Mosquito was funny, KA2 is positively hilarious. I was completely won over already by the intro, which is like a Vietnam War flashback.
More of this. Stop that scratching, soldier. Please, someone, save us from the itch. You can't just leave us here. It's no good if I can't help you. You're giving up on us.
Kenichi wakes up from his dream and Kaneo jumps through the window and Rena jump kicks through the door, announcing to him that they've won a homestay trip to Hawaii and that they leave tomorrow. Unfortunately for them, Mr. Mosquito decides to come with. So where is this wacky Japanese family going to stay? With a wacky American family, of course. The father, John Brown, no relation to the anti-slavery historical figure, is a bodybuilder who walks around in a Speedo all the time, loves bananas, and is a beginner student in Japanese. He's the wackiest, to be fair. The mother, Linda, is kind of normal, and the daughter, Aerith, is more or less just a blonde American version of Rena.
What's going on?
Shut that thing off! Sorry!
The stage in John's Japanese-style room is the highlight, where John is practicing his Japanese, even when fighting you.
There you are! Look, I don't lie.
The sequel has double the stages, because you can play as either the traveling Japanese Mosquito, or as the resident American one. The developer, Zoom, went the extra mile here, because while the Japanese narrator makes a return, they made a new narrator for the American stage that speaks in English.
The Brown's daughter, Aerith, shall be your first target.
And that's on top of the Brown family already being voiced in English.
And why did they leave the father at home? I thought it was a family trip.
John, Kenichi is the father.
I see. I thought he had too many wrinkles for a kid, but...
Japanese people really are very small, aren't they? I almost didn't see them at the airport.
Hey, show some respect. But to tell you the truth, I almost stepped on them because I didn't see them.
Anyway,
The first game had hearts as the health meter, and you could collect hollow hearts to add to your heart count. Whereas in KA2 you have a regular health bar, but gain stats after clearing a stage that you can allocate to attributes like suck power, stamina, relax power, and speed. Stamina is probably the most important, as you run out of it simply by flying, unlike the original. You need to stop and have it recharge every once in a while. One thing the sequel removes that is good is that you no longer bump into things, you just keep flying more or less. On the other hand, they removed being able to distract the humans by turning on stereos and so on. Interestingly, you can change the controls in the options. Either standard flying controls where up on the stick means fly down, or direct control where up means up. Normally that would be a godsend to me personally, but that's when it comes to camera control. Flight controls are supposed to be like that. But in general, gameplay is where the sequel changes the most, and honestly it's not for the better. In the first game the objective was to harvest enough blood to survive the winter, but in the sequel the blood collecting is of minor importance. It's more about helping people?
Oh, yeah.
Each stage presents you with some orange orbs with kanji in them, which means that the human in question has issues with those parts of the body or some affliction. Sometimes you can hear them say things like,
I have a backache.
The problem is that just because the orb says head, that doesn't mean you're supposed to suck blood from the head. Instead, the game takes inspiration from acupuncture. You're supposed to suck from certain spots that correspond to the affliction in question. You can suck blood from wherever there is skin now, but while I appreciate the freedom, I don't appreciate the guesswork that this system forces on you. Each stage does set a certain amount of blood for you to collect, but you can't finish a stage before curing all of the human's ills, so if you spend too much time sucking useless spots, you can max out your blood and then you have no choice but to restart the level. The one upside to getting fat on blood though, is that you can dive into glasses of water and collect health upgrades. Some of the ailments have spots that can only be hit in battle mode. The battle mode in general is done well here. It's easy to hit the relax points as you fly into them automatically once you've targeted them. And if you hit the same spot multiple times, the effect is lessened, which makes you experiment, which is reasonable. Still, it can get frustrating at times when you miss the one you intended, or if you can't find the one you need. That's the biggest one. The actual blood sucking also took a hit in the sequel, gameplay-wise. Gone is the system where you needed to adjust the rotations on the fly. Instead, you just kind of do it. If the music notes come out, you're doing well. But still, it's not a stimulating gameplay section anymore, according to me. Sometimes the humans ready their hands in a kind of warning stance, which usually means it's time to let go and try again. But sometimes, like in the original, they just slap you out of nowhere. which is the one time where the new English voiceover works against the game.
Got a little greedy there, huh?
Because this guy sounds pretty smug. In some stages, once per human, you get to do a special sucking spot. Although I see it more like I have to, because it's not fun.
This is a special sucking spot. Enjoy.
It just takes a long time, unless your sucking power is way up, and you have to fly off several times not to get killed. But one thing that is good is that they put in a gold mosquito medal item, which resurrects you to try again, fairy in a bottle style, and that wasn't there in the original. Other items strewn throughout the stages are color icons which you can use to recolor your mosquito, if you want to, and hint scrolls, which are good but not as specific as I would like. That's the tragedy of KA2. It's really funny, which I value highly. But because of the tsuballs, the acupuncture points, the gameplay was made worse. And why am I trying to help the humans anyway? Did the developers feel guilty after the first game or what?
I feel healthier for some reason.
The sequel looks better, controls a bit better, and is quite funny all the way through. But playing it can get both tedious and frustrating. I'm not going to say it sucks, because first of all that's the most obvious pun ever, but also because it doesn't. But it could have been like this perfect quirky game, a real slam dunk. Stupid acupuncture. But lastly, I have to mention the music. The first game has good music, but only one track really stands out to me, the rocky sounding song from stage 6. KA2 went really hard with the music. The title screen is like porno music for vampires.
Sweet blood. Let's suck together. Suck your blood, baby.
There's also the funk version.
Enjoy sucking! Let's suck together! Joyful sucking! Suck your blood, baby! I will suck blood! I like your blood! I can't live without your blood!
And there's also several epic battle themes. Both of these Mosquito games are well worth playing through once, because they're really quirky and funny.
Double bicep front.
But repeated playthroughs, I don't think they're too suited for. But the humor, the quirkiness, I have to admit, it does scratch a certain itch.
No. I'll be back.